Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. You know what it is. It is time to change everything. Because everything must change. And I'm so excited once again to start another week with you guys. I believe that what God is doing in our community of change is radically going to spark something in the lives, in our lives, and the lives of people around us. I believe what God started, He's faithful to finish. And I believe above all things that He's with us in this journey, that this time is now, and He's unleashing a power and making it available so that the decisions and the choices we make in this season will have supernatural results, supernatural outcomes. I believe that God is going to do something with everything that we offer to Him in this season. You guys already know what we've been saying. We're no longer going to give God empty vessels and say fill it, but we're going to give God full vessels and say overflow it. And you know, when we use that word overflow, we just want to see those waves in the chat. So let's put the waves in the chat. Let's let them know that our God is going to overflow us. We can have supernatural expectation for something good to happen because we serve a God of more than enough, not just enough, but more than enough. God is able to not only meet our expectations, but Ephesians 3:20 says that He's going to exceed those expectations. God's going to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can think, ask, or imagine. And so I hope you guys have just been diving into your books, diving into your materials, journaling, because it starts to spark an imagination. But understand this, God was always going to do greater than you could think, ask, or imagine. So if you can see it, expect greater. If you can do it, expect greater. If you can believe it, expect greater. If you woke up this morning with just great expectation for what God is going to do today and what God is going to do in your 2023, go ahead and put some smiles in the chat. Just put some smiles in the chat. You see Pastor Brian. He's smiling this morning. He's smiling this morning. I'm excited. Listen, I'm actually in Orlando this morning because yesterday we dropped my mom off to the airport, and she's going to London, right? She's going to London, and I kind of thought, like, while we were driving her, that at some point she would invite us. I don't know. I just y'all know me. I don't put anything. I don't take anything off the table. So I was like, well, you know what? If we in the car, maybe she'll just be like, hey, listen, you know what? Let's just do this together. Well, y'all, she didn't. So me, and my two ladies, my lovely ladies, we checked into a hotel and just enjoying life, man. And I'm telling you right now that life is to be enjoyed, and that God will make sure that not only are you progressing in life, but you're enjoying the life that you're progressing in. That's what purpose is all about. It's about finding what you love, but not only what you love, but what will also progress you towards the things God's called you to do. And so I'm super excited about this journey. I love the twists and turns. I love these moments where we just get to really enjoy what God has done. But at the same time, we still about that work, man. And so, no days off. Here I am. Here you are. No matter where we are, we're staying consistent to our timelines, consistent to our wake up times, consistent to what God is doing in our lives. Why? Because we understand, man, that our consistency, for one, creates breakthrough in our lives. And we understand that we are people of habits and people of rules and people of standards, and we don't bend them for anything. Like, listen, I found a random hallway in this hotel, and I just pulled out my book, started studying, started reading, and guess what? I believe that in these moments is where we show so much faithfulness to God about taking ourselves serious, taking what He's doing in our lives serious. Like, I believe that every time you wake up early, I believe that every time that you decide in a moment that's not convenient to go ahead and do the work, go ahead and do the studying that we've been doing, I believe that you're showing God that, like, you believe in you, and that you believe in what He's doing in your life, and you believe that there's greater to come, and you believe in you. And a lot of times we haven't valued ourselves. And so this is always also about valuing you. When you invest in you, you're saying, like, God, I truly believe that there's something incredible that you're going to do in my life. But like I said before, to my transition champions, my agents of change, everything about this is about you and the decisions you decide to make as a result of what's being said. I'm just here with you, inviting you on my journey, and we're inviting each other on each other's journey so that we can stir each other up. The Bible tells us that as believers, we should come together and stir each other up about the good work that God has called us to do. And so I pray that as these moments are happening, as these sessions are happening, that God is inspiring you. But I'm telling you, don't just be inspired. Make a decision on what you've been inspired in. Listen, I believe that God is speaking to his people, speaking to you in this season. And so I believe that right now, he's already started to usher in fresh. Look at that. My mom just tagged. Look at that. Look at that. Pastor Deborah, I don't even know. Pastor Deborah is in London and she just chimed in. You guys see what I'm saying? Do you guys see what I'm saying? Like, a lot of times people wonder, like, how did they get there? It's dedication. There's no off days. Like, she's chiming in. She just took a 9-hour flight to London. I don't know. She may be in the car. She may have checked it. I don't know where she's at, but she logged into the chat this morning. Why? Because it's what we do. And man, you just have to be just as adamant about what God has called you to do. Y'all say good morning to Pastor Deborah. Tell her to grab some tea for us, some crumpets, whatever they're eating over there right now. But listen, we love starting off with our success principles. It just reminds us of the things we do for what God has called us to do. And that first thing is, truth is, new beginnings require a new commitment. And new commitments require for you to make room. And so that's what we're doing. You guys are making a new commitment by waking up 15 minutes earlier, by being on these calls. And so you can expect new because you're putting in a new input. So new outcomes will result from what you were doing. And as we said, like, in order for me to make a new commitment, I have to make room. That means that there's some things that I might have to declutter about my life, declutter about my agenda, so that I can make room for the new commitments that God's calling me to make. If you're not progressively making room, there will not be room for new. If you were not always making room, well, how do I start making room when there's good things on my plate, Pastor Brian? We grow in efficiency. And that's what we talked about last week, where you're setting times to when you should be finishing assignments, even if no one else gives you a time. A lot of times people, they're like, man, I can't believe that my supervisor gave me a time frame like this. I'm like, you should have been giving yourself a time frame, and your time frame should have been tighter than theirs. Why? Because we don't live according to others' expectations. We live according to the standards we set for ourselves. Your standard of you should be always higher than any expectation someone gives to you. And you should challenge yourself about, like, if someone's like, hey man, I think this should take 3 weeks to get done. You don't have to tell them, because obviously that's your supervisor, but you should say to yourself, like, no, I'm gonna do it in 2.5. I'm gonna do it in 2.5. I'm gonna do it in 2.5 because I must grow in efficiency so that I can create room so God can always bring new into my life. I want to grow in efficiency in everything that I do. I want to get better at what I do. And that's why we're waking up earlier, so we can have better plans for our days. Because truth is, a new vision and a new purpose requires a new you. You must become new. Like, you must become new. And this is all about, like you say, we're not just hearers of the word, but we're doers of the word. And as we are doing the word, we are becoming the very word that God has imparted in our lives. We don't want to just hear it and know it, but we want to become every word that is spoken. We talked about it yesterday in church, but we want to reflect God's glory. Like, we want to become who God is. Like, the veil was removed so that we could see God clearly, so that we can reflect God clearly. Like, we want to be new. Like, we want to reflect who God is, and everything he's saying, we want to become, not just know it, not just hear it, not just be mandated, but we want it to flow naturally from out of us, right? Because truth is, one thoughtful moment is worth more than 1,000 mindless traditions. And so we're like, listen, we want to become it so that we're no longer just outside of just ourselves and what we're doing. We want to bring our minds and who we are completely to the things that we're doing. Like, it's like if God's calling me to be a janitor, then I want to really understand what it means to service a facility. I want to understand cleaning products. I want to understand what it, the whole outlook. And it's amazing when I talk to people who own different cleaning businesses, how much they dive into the products and the different surfaces and how they respond to one of them. They're becoming it. They're like, I'm not just going to clean. I'm going to understand the products I use to clean. I'm going to understand how this brush affects that surface. I'm going to understand how this towel affects that window. I want to learn these things so that way I'm becoming it, that I'm efficient in it, I'm effective in it. I'm not going to waste any moments. If this is where I am in my life, then I'm going to become everything about where I am in my life. I'm not going to treat any moment as useless. If I'm there, I might as well bring all of me where I am. Y'all just put an amen in the chat. Like, I'm already psyched up and we're just getting started. But no, even if I'm in a position in my life where this is not where I want to be, but this is the job that I have, I'm going to become it because I'm offering God back a sacrifice. I'm being faithful in what belongs to somebody else's. And so, no, I'm going to take this season as a sowing season that God, I will become who I need to be in the place that you've called me to be. I will embody it. I will become better at it. I am not going to go through any moment in my life mindless and thoughtless. I'm not going to treat any season of my life as though it can't be significant seed for my next. That's good. That's good. And that's not in my notes. I'm not going to treat any season in my life as though it can't be significant seed for my next. Every morning, I tell you guys, treat it like you're sowing seeds for what God's going to do next. But I'll refuse to treat any moment in my life like it can't be used as significant seed for my next. If it's something I don't even like doing, I'm going to use it as faithfulness in what belongs to somebody else. That's a seed sown towards a harvest. God said, I will give you that which is your own. That's what the word says. But I will not treat any season, although it all as if it can't be significant seed for my next. No, I will become it. I will show God, even in things that aren't naturally in my path, that I will take great care of it. You know what God would do with a heart like that? He will extend it to other places. Oh man, that is so good. That is so good. But truth is, there's nothing more threatening to the progress of a new thing than an old mind. And that's the thing that even deals with what we were talking about, is that's that old mindset. The old mindset is, if it doesn't belong to me, then I'm not going to treat it as though it deserves absolute attention. But no, that's a mindset that we just really, really have to crucify. We have to crucify it because ultimately we're believing God to give us his business. Because ultimately we're believing God to give us his business. And so we're expecting God to give us his business and treat it with great respect. I'm pretty sure God's watching how you're treating someone else's business, because you're not always going to want to do what God tells you to do. But in a season of serving someone else's and saying, like, even though it's not mine, I will own it as if it's mine. God sees that as, you will treat my work the same way. You know, not everyone that Pastor Brian prays for, sometimes they ask me to pray for things that I, in my mind, may think it's insignificant. But it's what they ask me to pray for. And because I'm God's servant, I can't treat their prayer request as insignificant because of my perspective of what they said. No, that's this is God's business. This is God's person. And my opinion does not matter. Like, my take on what you call valuable does not matter when it comes to God's business, when it comes to God's work. And so, how do I show that faithfulness that God, I will treat your work with great sincerity, even when it doesn't fit my preference, by starting today by treating work you don't like with great sincerity and purpose. You use this as seed for your next season. Refuse to see any current moment as, no, it cannot be significant seed for your next season. That is just so good, man. I'm, I'm super excited about that point. Woo, because truth is, the thoughts you meditate on form the identity you walk in. The thoughts you meditate on form the identity you walk in. And that's what we're saying. Like, man, if I'm meditating on these thoughts right now, it will form the identity I walk in. If I walk in the thoughts of humility, if I walk in the thoughts of laying down my will for God's good, if I walk with those thoughts now, then I will become that person in the future. If I allow these thoughts to permeate my day to day, I will become these thoughts in the future. And it won't be something I even have to think about. It will be something that just comes out of me. It will naturally flow out of me. It will naturally be something that I do. That even when someone walks up to you, like kids walk up to me, it's Christmas. It's Christmas, right? And so kids in the church walk up to me and they ask me to pray over their Christmas list. That's not the time for me to give them a lesson on budgeting and finances and where's your parents out. Like that's not what that is. That's not what that is. You know what I tell kids when they come to me with a Christmas list and they're just like, listen, I know that you're the pastor here and you and God have some type of connection. And I'm just thinking that you can help me with this. Like it's like I say, it's not time for a lecture. It's not time for me to cast down their dreams. What I remind them of is that the God whom your parents serve, the God who I've served, He's faithful to do, and never to put a time span on when God can bring what you desire into your life. That's what I tell them. Like even if you don't get it this Christmas, keep believing God because God will bring you what you desire. Like, pray for your parents. Believe that God will bring them provision. Believe that God will help them to see, like, well, what if they believe in Santa? Then I tell them, believe that Santa will. Like, it's not my job to introduce them to that. No, I'll tell them, well, believe that God will give Santa the provision. But what I'm teaching them is the alignment. I'm making sure that they understand it is God that is their provider. It is God that will always make a way. But listen, it's not my job to treat God's word through my personal preference. It's not my job to be that person. It's God's work. These are God's people. And just because it may seem insignificant to me, that doesn't mean I can treat it that way. Oh man, I'm trying to shake that part, but that part just keeps coming back. But anyway, we know we're on this journey forming four things that are going to absolutely launch us and propel us into our destiny for next year. Is we're getting our purpose cleared, in our picture form, a plan made out, and accountability established. That's why you're journaling. That's why you're taking all these notes. You're journaling and you're taking all these notes so that when we get to these moments of accountability, the plan, the picture, and the purpose, you're not coming empty handed. I'm trying to tell you that many times the reason why it's so hard for us to have deep rooted established plans and the reason why we fade away so quick is because we didn't do the work of inputting enough necessary good so that we could become and see clear of what God is doing in our lives. Trust me, Pastor Brian's going to walk you through this. He's going to walk you through this. I thank you guys for hanging with me. Week 2, I know you're ready to jump on it, but I'm telling you, you need far more material in your journal than what you actually believe you need so that you can actually take these next steps in a way that it will be incredibly beneficial for your life. I'm telling you, listen, we want to move to a place of overflow and not lack anymore. And listen, it takes that work. And I thank you guys for putting in this work, right? If you've been putting in the work, just put your dukes up, man. Put your strong arms up, man. If you've been putting in that work, I talked to some people at church yesterday. It's almost like a little check-in period when I see people at church on Sunday. But listen, I saw somebody at church on Sunday. It's like, listen, Pastor Brian, I had to do a little catch up. I had to do a little catch up, and I know ketchup belongs on food, not on my life. I know ketchup belongs on food, not on my life, but I had to watch 4 videos and I had to do. I was like, listen, as long as you know ketchup belongs on your food, not on your life. Awesome. And so you guys know we go to our perfect formula book next. In our perfect formula book, right? Man, we're making that transition. We talked about controlling our mornings, but now we're going to talk about conquering our afternoons. conquering our afternoons. In order to conquer your afternoons, you have to make it personal. You have to take everything you do as personal because the afternoons bring chaos. And if you're subjective in your afternoons, you can lose your day. But you have to take everything you do as personal. You have to take people's attack on your focus as personal. You have to take interruptions as personal. And I told you before, if you have a supervisor and you have a boss and you have somebody who habitually interrupts your day, you have to be proactive with those relationships so that when you get to your afternoon, you can conquer and win without interruption. So you have to take it personal. Like you have to take people coming to you talking about side conversations. You have to talk in person. I'm not talking about side conversations like somebody else. Well, definitely if they're gossiping, but I'm talking about just shooting the breeze. Like, no, I'm gonna take it personal. And you have to make sure right after lunchtime, make sure you're eating things that aren't going. You know what's going to slow you down. I put a pause right there because not only is that hitting you, that's hitting me. Listen, we know what slows us down. Don't waste an hour of your day just trying to wait for your food to digest because you decided to reward yourself with a good meal halfway through your day, right? I see Coach Matrice in there. I see Coach in there. Coach, I know you gonna help me when we start putting these things together. I know you gonna help me get them to tighten up in that subject. You gonna help me tighten up too. I need to tighten up too. I'm not gonna fake the funk. I need to tighten up in that area too. Sometimes I actually don't eat right in the afternoon, because I'm just that radical, but that's not healthy either, right? So, but understand that you have to make the afternoons personal. And so these are the five pillars of success that we are going to establish for our afternoon. First off, we have to already have been planned and prepared before we get to our afternoons. We have to have professional accountability. We have to have professional accountability. And then we have social support. Now, those are two different things that many people, I'm introducing this to you. And of course, if you've been reading along in the book, you see it too. Many times we have social support. What is this? What we're doing here as change agents, as transition champions, this is social accountability. Your thumbs up or your thumbs down, which put it in the chat. If you woke up 15 minutes earlier, thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs down, right? That's social support. This is your social support. But you always want to have the back end of professional accountability. Professional accountability is someone who actually knows where you're going and what strategic moves need to be made at every step. And so we want to have professional accountability. Then we want to have social support in what we are doing as well. And so we're going to get those things in place. And then we have to have an incentive. You do have to have an incentive. I tell people all the time, like, you have to have an incentive. You have to have an incentive. You have to have an incentive, no matter how small it is or how big it is. Man, you have to make sure that in some way every day you are rewarding yourself for the efforts you put in. You have to have it. Trust me. Um, like I say, it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be something that is going to throw your budget off track. But if you aren't rewarding yourself, then where who do you expect is? And a lot of times we're expecting for people to bring appreciation to ourselves that we haven't even bring appreciation to us that we haven't even given to ourselves. And so set an incentive for your day. Every day I set an incentive for myself. And if I perform well, I take part in it. If I don't, then I lay it to a side. Now, you got to make that for yourself. You have to do it. Like you woke up, you put together this plan, we'll put together an incentive as well. Um, like you say, Miss Charlene says, incentives do not have to cost money. They do not have to cost money. You're absolutely right. Some of my incentives have to do with things that I enjoy doing just around my house. Like I love to, this is just me. So I love to decorate. I love to design. That doesn't always mean purchase something. Sometimes it's just moving the pillows around on the couch. I'm thinking they would look better if they were in this formation. Now that's Pastor Brian's thing. But if I didn't do well that day, then I don't reward myself with that time to do that. No, like you no, like you didn't earn it, right? and you have to have those personal incentives in place. Then, of course, the big deadline. Like, you'd be surprised how many people are doing things without deadlines. And I told you guys, you can no longer do things that don't have a time frame and a deadline. Everything must have a time frame and a deadline. Every task in your day must have a time frame and a deadline. I told you, even in this sessions that we have in the morning, I've divided it up into 4 pieces because structure releases freedom. I put it in 4 pieces, and I give myself 10 minutes to develop each section. And so I know it takes me an hour to put together this recording that I provide. That's the structure that releases the freedom. And the more I do it, actually the more efficient I become in it. And so, listen, you have to have time frames, you have to have deadlines, and no one's giving it to you. You give it to yourself. Why do I have to have the time frames and the deadlines? Because then I can judge my own personal performance before somebody else does. The Bible says if I judge myself, guess what? Y'all know the rest. All I'm simply saying is if you set these things in place, you're not surprised when your supervisor comes and starts talking about it. Why? Because listen, we don't live according to the expectations of others, but to the standards we set for ourselves. And your standards should always exceed the expectations anyone else has for you. And so you should be challenging yourself to be more efficient. Why? Because the more efficient I am, the more room I make in my life. The more room I make in my life, the more things God will bring into my life. That's church. Y'all put church buildings in the chat. Put church buildings in the chat. These are real life principles for success. I'm talking about, yes, I prayed. Yes, I prayed over my health. I prayed, but then I was about that action, boss. I made some real choices and some real decisions that move my life forward. And what I'm telling you is you shouldn't be waiting for people to set expectations. You should have standards that exceed their expectations. You should be setting your own mark of efficiency that's greater than anybody else's expectation of you. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because the more efficient you get, the more room you make in your life. The more room you make in your life, the more new God will bring into your life. Many people are like, God, bring something new into my life while they're currently mismanaging what they have. Okay. Many people are asking God to bring new into their life while they're currently mismanaging what they have. I don't want to burst your bubble, but God's not bringing new while you're mismanaging what you currently have. That's why structure releases freedom. That's why even if no one gave you a deadline, you give one to yourself because it's not you, right? Listen, what I'm about to say. We say this in church all the time. Well, this is the activity behind it. I work unto the Lord. I work unto the Lord. I work unto the Lord. We say that in church, right? Y'all know we be saying this in church that I work unto the Lord. Then what does that mean? That means I work according to his standards for me, not man's. And we serve a God of order before increase. Somebody put an amen in the chat. Put some prayer hands. Now you do know these are actually 2 hands clapping, but I know we'd be using them as prayer hands. But put some prayer hands in the chat. I love you guys. And of course, we're achieving our number one priority. We understand that success starts and ends with a personal choice. If it's up to me, if it is to be, it's up to me. If it is to be, it's up to me. If it is to be, it's up to me. Fine tune your mind and create powerful habits for success. That's what we've been doing, and we're about to turn that page after you have everything you need to conquer your morning, and we're going to develop these 5 pillars of success so that you can conquer your afternoons. I mean, we controlled the mornings. Now it's time to conquer the afternoons. Listen, you're going to have a whole day package ready to go. But next, we went to our chapter for today. And our chapter for today is coming from 1 Corinthians 13. And this is good. This is good. This is so good. And we've been working in this for the last like 3 sessions we've done because, man, there's this thing that we have to get under control. We have to get this under control. And the thing that we have to get under control is, we are leaders, and a lot of time we're mismanaging the love that God has called us to extend towards others as leaders, what leads to the detriment of people who are around us. What am I saying? I'm saying that we want to be people of love. We want to know to be people of love. But oftentimes, as leaders, we face decisions that could be misinterpreted as not things love would do. And we have to learn to navigate those seasons well. When it's time to fire somebody, when it's time to let somebody go, when it's time to say, I think it's time for us to pause in our relationships. Y'all know one of the things I say. This is what I tell people all the time. Y'all wonder, like, what does Pastor Brian say in those moments? I tell them, I believe that your healing process needs to continue somewhere else. I believe that your process of healing needs to occur somewhere else. I still believe that God wants better for you, but I believe your process of healing needs to occur somewhere else. Like you have damaged us, and we can't actually handle your process of healing anymore. You've become such a disruption here that we are now being hindered by your process of healing. And if we are being hindered by your process of healing, how will we be well enough for the next? And understand, listen, that's just truth, because at the end of the day we're challenged, and that's why I'm saying we have to navigate this. In First Corinthians 13, it's there where we find a breakdown of love. And we know in verse 4 it says love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It's not irritable. It keeps no records of being wrong. It does not rejoice about injustices, but rejoice over whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, and is always hopeful and endures through every circumstance. And so we're reading this, and someone could easily fire back, like, why are you saying these things about me? Love doesn't keep no record of wrong. And you can immediately be frozen as a leader, as a parent, in a relationship, because you're like, well, man, you're right. The Bible does say love doesn't keep no record of wrong. And here I am bringing your wrongs to you. But I would like for you to balance all of that with the full chapter of First Corinthians 13. In verse 11, it says, when I was a child, I spoke and thought and reasoned as a child. But when I grew up, I put away childish things. Why is that in balance with love? Because you have to understand that love isn't just something you know, it's something you do. It's not something you know, it's something you do. And just knowing these things could cause damage. But you understanding that these are things I should be doing, you understand the life that comes from it. And love simply says this: every time I meet an opposition, every time I meet a moment where I'm having to come to a point of like uh, controversy or conflict or with the person, is that love always offers an opportunity of change. Love always offers an opportunity of change and repentance. Like, love always leaves an open door for somebody to actually reconcile themselves. So I'll come with the conversation saying, like, man, I believe you need to get healed somewhere else. And most of the time I'll tell people, listen, I'm doing this because I believe that there's a future good, that this is the next best decision to protect that. Like, if we continue in this type of context, all it's doing is ruining the possibilities of our future good. And I believe that there is an open door for our future, but in order for that door to stay open, we must protect our present. And currently, we're not on the same page. Now, some of y'all might be saying, man, Pastor Brian, that's good. Write this stuff down. This is the stuff that I be using. These are actual words that I use as I let people know that I'm not giving up on why God called us together. But I'm saying if we're going to protect why God called us together, this next season means that we need to separate, because right now we are so opposing in what we see that we're creating animosity and undercurrent. We talked about this yesterday, and that undercurrent is causing more damage than good. So in protection of where God is taking us, I believe right now you need to complete your healing process somewhere else. What did I do? I was very conclusive, very clear, but I came to you in love. Love just says, I came with you with an opportunity for change to take place and progress to happen. I didn't come to you with an ultimatum. I came to you with an understanding that we can, in some way, some future, maybe reconcile this. But today, in protection of that future, this is the next best decision. And so that's why I love that child piece, because it's saying that our progress isn't just about the things that we accumulate, but the things that we recognize we need to put away. I tell people maturity is two things. It's not only maturity happens in the things that you gain, but maturity is also a part of the things that you understand are no longer beneficial. Like, there's things you have to put away. And the thing about maturity is you clearly can see what needs to be put away. And a mature person is a person who clearly recognizes what is no longer beneficial. Immature people participate in things that they don't even realize is no longer for their good. Maturity is just as much about what you do as what you now can recognize to put away. Maturity says, I don't go there no more. I don't say those things no more. I don't do those things no more. Why? Because I've matured past those points. I understand those things are no longer beneficial for my good. And so when you think about love and you think about the fact that it's an action that we do, what has your experience with love, God's love for you and your love for others, what has it matured you to? This is really good. Love will always also show you what is no longer beneficial or good. That's why Jesus, who was love, went into the temple and turned over the tables. Their activity was no longer beneficial for the kingdom. Let the church say amen, right? He went in there because the activity was no longer beneficial for the progress of the church. And so love said this had to stop. Love is not just what you know, it's what you've become through maturing through experience with love. Oh man, love is a teacher, love is a guide, but love is also a recognizer of what's no longer beneficial and profitable for the progress of God's good. Love is discerning too. And listen, love is not irritable. And there's some people who are irritating you. And it's time that you become clear about what phase of your life that you and them are in. I tell people all the time, and man, I'm going a little longer than I wanted to, but I like to say it like this. If you have, um, if a grown person is living in their parents' house, listen, that grown person in most cases loves their parents. But how many of you guys know the context of their existing can cause strains that make them question their love for one another? And that's what I'm saying. A lot of times, it isn't that we don't fell out of love. Sometimes we're maintaining a context of relationship that is no longer beneficial for us to experience the love we have for each other. You're a grown person living in your parents' house. The context is hard. The context is hard. And I've been in that season before, man. 4 years into our marriage, me and Rashida moved back to my parents' house. And so I know what I'm talking about, right? And I'm simply saying that season served us well, man. It was one of the best decisions we've ever made. But at the end of the day, it was a season. Why? Because the love we have for each other would have become strained because of the context, not the quality. That's what I'm saying. The context will have you question the quality. When the quality is good, it's the context that needs to change. Many of us are fine, our love is fine. It's just been strained due to the context that we keep trying to operate it in. And that's why I say I might have to transition this season so that the quality of my love doesn't start to suffer because the context I'm trying to operate it in. And so your healing process has to take somewhere else because I'm gonna love you so much better from across the room than I can standing next to you. Hallelujah. But First Corinthians 13 also lets us know that all that is good and all that is God hinges upon love. And it's amazing because really you have to keep this in context. Hey, Dr. Layton, I see Dr. Layton in there. Dr. Layton, if you don't follow Dr. Layton, you need to go follow Dr. Layton ASAP. Dr. Layton, do something so they can make sure that they don't miss you. This is one of my father's best friends. I know a lot of people say they was his best friends, but I'm telling you as the son that this was one of his best friends. And Dr. Layton preaches an uncompromising word. So y'all follow him. Put something in the chat so they know how to follow you, Pastor Layton. He will help you see some things clearly. I love Dr. Layton, man. Oh my God. All that is good and all that is God hinges upon love. That's what it's letting us know in 1 Corinthians 13. And it's important that you keep this in context of what happened in 1 Corinthians 12 that we read yesterday, because it's letting us know that, listen, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what these gifts are if these gifts aren't hinged or operated upon love, if they're not swinging or opening, if these gifts aren't opening doors as a result of love, who cares about what the gift is? Like, all that is good and all that is God hinges upon love. So going on next, right? We have our Trust Me book, and man, today is good. And some of y'all gonna be like, Pastor Brian, that's an amazing transition you about to make. Well, y'all know my father, Pastor Greg Poe. We're reading this Trust Me book, right? And listen, you guys have been awesome. Man, I can't tell you how thankful I am. You know, it was listen, it was something that I didn't even expect, but I'm just doing what I do. And I'm telling you, man, you guys have been buying my father's books. And I'm taking this moment to say this because there's nothing more like satisfying to my soul to know that the work that my father started and the things that he did are continuing to live on. And man, you guys buying his book, picking up this material. Man, people come to me after service like, where can I get the books from? Some people have called in and purchased books for people. Man, and I, I don't even have words to express how much it means to me that um, that is living on. Like, wow, God, like, oh man, this is so good. But Pastor said today, right? It's time to get rid of some of this little popcorn stuff. It's time to get rid of some of this little popcorn stuff. And he was referring to believing. And he was saying it's time to get on to supernatural belief. It's time to get on with supernatural believing. And he was, of course, referencing Abraham, that when Abraham ran out of hope, he had two types of hope. He had a natural hope, but then he had a supernatural hope. He had a hope in the things that he can see, but he had a hope in a God who can do things above what he could see. And he was saying, listen, it's time to get on it's time to click the switch, stop the popcorn believing, and switch to a supernatural hope. A supernatural hope employs supernatural expectation. And I love to say this, that's expectations beyond the ordinary, expectations beyond the mundane, expectations beyond what I can see. I'm expecting something to happen outside of its natural order of things. Hear what I'm saying? When you say something is supernatural, you're saying, I believe that something's going to happen outside the normal course of operation. I believe that something's going to take place outside the normal routine of things. I believe that God's going to step in and break up my ordinary with something extraordinary. That's what supernatural believing is. And Pastor was motivating us to flip the switch. Y'all put some switches in the chat. Put some power emojis in the chat. Put some power emojis in the chat and say, listen, it's time that I hit the switch on some things in my life, some things I'm believing for, some things I've been trusting for. And I'm going to go ahead and just make the decision ahead of time to expect that God's going to break up my ordinary with something extraordinary. And I expect there to be a supernatural influence to take place in my life. There's some things in your life that are reserved for the glory of God to be seen. And I tell people all the time, when someone has found your glory spot, just say, that's my glory spot. I know it's above who I am. I know it's above my qualifications. I know it's outside of my background, but everybody has a glory spot. Every believer has a glory spot, I call it. It's the place in which God is going to do what only God can do. And you have to know what your glory spot is. You have to know the place where it's God's place of operation in your life. It's the thing that God has always moved for you. It's the thing that God is always committed to move for you. So ain't no point of you working in that area. Now, it's important for you to recognize recognize that area, because there's some areas you need to put in that work. And that's what we're doing right here. There's some areas you need to put in that work, but there's certain things that have been reserved for the glory of God. And of course, I get this from when Jesus went to heal the child, and they were like, man, what did he do? Did this person sin? And he said, no, this person did not sin. He said, this moment, this opportunity reserved for the glory of God to be seen, for God's power to be seen. Like, and there's things in your life that God has reserved for his supernatural good to take place in. What am I saying? There's places in your life where God is planning to break the ordinary, to do something extraordinary in. And listen, let's just pray over that. I want to pray about that. God, I pray that you give your people clarity this morning in the place in which you're going to break up the ordinary and do something extraordinary. May they no longer stress or strain about a place that you're reserving to bring your good to. It doesn't matter how much they push it, because it's taking supernatural power for that thing to take place. And when I pray that they stand strong, knowing that you're the God who's faithful, you're just, and you will do exactly what you said you would do. You are not a man that you should lie, but you are faithful, just, and you can be counted on. Give me some, man. Give me some praise in the chat, man. Put a praise right there. I'm about to get to running in these folks' hotel. I'm about to get to running in these folks' hotel. But also in our bigger, faster, stronger leadership as we start to close out today, right? In our bigger, faster, stronger leadership, listen, this is so good. And I want you to hold this in balance of what we were talking about with how we express love, and it says this, right? Dr. Samuel Chan wanted us to all understand as leaders that all leaders wear two hats. Just own it. Just own it. I'm a pastor and I'm a CEO. You wear two hats. You wear two hats. If you don't make that distinction, then you don't know how to operate in clarity in moments when you have to. If you don't make the distinction, you won't know how to operate in clarity in moments when you have to. And it's almost like trying to be your child's friend and father. Like, if you're trying to be them both, listen, you're going to be moments where you're not going to be able to operate in clarity because you're confused. And I tell people all the time, they're like, I'm not my child's friend. I said, there's moments where you should be, but there's moments where you shouldn't be. The thing that you want to grow in is clarity of when you need to act in the role that's best for their future. Let me say that again, because I hear a lot of parents, because of their trauma from their past parents, that they're like, listen, like, I'm not trying to be my child's friend. I'm telling you right now, there's moments where you need to be their friend. There's moments when you need to be their father. There's moments when you need to be their mother. There's moments when you need to be their counsel. There's moments when you need to be their prayer partners. There's many moments where there's roles that you need to play to be beneficial for their future. There are times when you need to be your child's friend. What does that simply mean? It's like, I'm not going to judge you, but I'm going to support you regardless of how I feel. Friends stick closer than a brother, the Bible says. Why? Because they're always trying to reconcile. Like, friends are always wanting to reconcile. Like, if you got a good friend, your good friend, they are not trying to bring stress, and they're always just trying to make sure you all right. That's what a friend is. And so there's moments where you need to be a friend to your kids, and then there's moments where you need to be their parents. Stop trying to muddle what you just need to define better, is what I'm saying. Just define the moments that are most beneficial for the role that needs to be played in your child's life. Listen, man, like my dad, man, there was moments where he was my friend. There was moments when he was my pastor. There was moments when he was my father. And as our relationship grew, the distinctions became clearer and clearer. He didn't always announce the role before he said something, but I could discern, even as I matured, that what, my dad is being my dad right now. And I could tell there was moments when my dad was just being my friend, and I could tell there was moments when my dad was just being my pastor. And what's so interesting about that? There would be seasons where I would change my dad's name in my phone. There would be seasons where I would call him, he'd be dad. There'd be seasons where he would be pastor. Like, I would change so when he called me, I would be in the right mentality to respond the way I need to respond. We need to stop trying to muddle what we actually need to just do, put in the work to clarify. Y'all put some magnifying glass into it, like, bring some clarity. Bring some clarity. Let me not do that. And that's what he was saying. He's saying, listen, As a leader, stop trying to muddle what needs to actually just be clarified. There are moments when you are a pastor, there's moments when you are a CEO. And if you muddle these two, you'll be dragging around folks that's supposed to have been let go. You'll be instead of just owning the fact that no, like church is on Sunday. I know I'm speaking from my place. Church is on Sunday. This is Monday. This is Monday. I switch and you need to switch. And if you don't do that, there'll be moments where decisions need to be made and you won't have the confidence to do it because you're unclear of the role that you're walking in. Just acknowledge the fact that you have to walk in different capacities with different people at different times. That it's just acknowledge it. And the moment you start acknowledging it, you'll start to get the fruit of it. And while you're working it, it's okay to announce it. It's okay to tell the people that you're working with, like, listen, right now, I'm about to be the CEO. Like right now, I'm about to be your pastor. Listen, right now, I'm about to be your friend. Right now, I'm about to be your brother. People respect when you announce it. Just announce it. Like I need to talk to you right now as your brother because you're tripping. I'm not talking to you as Pastor Brian. I'm not talking to you as CEO. Like, because listen, that you see how disruptive that could be. You know, especially when you're in a family business, it can be very disruptive to think that, man, you're dragging what I did at Sunday dinner into how I perform Monday morning. Like that's out of order, man. That's out of order, man. That's out of order. And that's why a lot of family businesses don't work because they refuse to define what needs to be defined. They rather operate in muddleness, or I'm gonna make it even worse. A lot of times they like to bend their title according to their preference in the moment. And that's wrong too. You can't just switch up and be my pastor all of a sudden. You was just my dad 3 minutes ago. And I was just telling you things as your dad. Now you're counseling me. And so we got to be clear about these things, especially if we're wanting to operate with our family and business, our family and ministry. Listen, you got to do it. And many of you guys are starting business with your family members. Make sure that you are creating atmospheres that are important. Man, I label rooms, I label moments, I label agendas. We're going to get into that about the afternoon. I'll hold that for today. I got to close out, man. Y'all got me out here. Oh, man, talking too much. But he says here, I found countless leaders who found excuses to wear only one hat. It's an excuse when you only want to wear one hat as a leader. No, as a leader, you wear multiple hats, which demands that you perfect multiple roles. But that's the cost of being a leader. If you want to be the leader, pay the cost. The Bible says, to whom much is given, much is required. What is the requirement of being a leader? Is that I develop in multiple roles. I develop in multiple roles. I distinguish when those roles need to take place. And I'm clear about what role I'm in when I'm interacting with the people who love me. If that's good, just put some good eating, put some fruit in the chat. Like, Pastor Brian, that was some good eating. You just cleared up a whole lot. That was some good eating. That was some good eating. And why are we doing this? Why are we being this thorough? Because listen, in order for us to operate in absolute efficiency in 2023, there's some things that have to be in structure. There's some things that have to be in place so that we're not making decisions in 2023. We are responding to what we've already decided. In order to remove in great speed in life and with God, you cannot be making decisions en route. You have to be responding to what you've already decided. That's how you move with great speed. The reason why the space shuttle can move as fast as it moves is because nobody's steering it. Hear what I'm saying? They are not steering the space shuttle. They are not steering your airplane. Wait, they are typing in the coordinates ahead of time. It's moving too fast. And many people are looking for supernatural pace while still having too many decisions en route. You have to make all of your decisions before you start. You have to have a predetermined mind if you're expecting God to move you in a fast way. And so we're taking this time so that we have predetermined things before we enter into what we're doing. This is, you guys know we say this all the time. What are habits? What are standards? Habits and standards are me deciding what I'm going to do before I even have a choice to choose. I know I have a standard and a habit and a rule that is good when it has already decided what I have to do before I even have a choice. Man, this morning's been really, really good. Really, really good. I am. Listen, it's been good. Avoiding this reality only creates bigger problems. Avoiding this reality only creates bigger problems. And so I want you to understand, like, real change always takes time, but we can be far more patient if we have a positive attitude. And I hope you understand this, right? That and we talked about this in yesterday's service, that God isn't asking us simply to change, but the truth of the matter is, He's asking us to exchange. God is asking us to lay down what we think and exchange it for what He thinks. And I tell people all the time, and I actually got this from Deacon Willie Hill. Y'all know the great leader, the GOAT, Deacon Willie Hill. As he said this to me all the time. He says, Brian, truth of the matter is change is immediate, growth takes time. Change is immediate. It's growth that takes time. And we are exchanging what we do for what God has desired. It's an exchange. It doesn't take time. It takes time for something to grow. It takes time for something to mature. But change is immediate because it's an exchange. It's saying, I'm going to stop this and exchange it for that. That's all it is. It's an exchange. And so I pray that you guys make an exchange in your lives today. Exchange your old habits for these new habits. Exchange your old wake up times for these new wake up times. Exchange your old way of putting your day together for a new way of putting it together. Don't work on it. Exchange it. Allow the growth to take place. The growth will take time, but you got to exchange it first. You guys know, and I won't beat you up too much this morning, but there's something about this gospel and its desire for you to fully believe in it in order to get absolute results. And so that's why we make exchanges, right? And I will end you guys in our 7 directions for making changes. And this is so positive. This is so good, right? When all a culture says, be you, God tells us to serve others. God didn't create us to be takers. He created us to be givers. Isn't that so awesome? When all of culture says, be you, God tells us to serve others. God didn't create us to be takers. He created us to be givers. Listen, Pastor Brian, Mr. Good News himself, Mr. Have a Good Day, Mr. Change Your Life, as they're calling me nowadays, right? I'm so thankful to be on this journey with you guys. I love you. I appreciate you. And I will see you tomorrow. And you guys know it is always a good day to have a good day.